she is doing the new small talk, and Freddie is sort of enraptured by her because he's Freddie and he's a little dull. And when she's leaving, he asked her if she's going to walk across the park, and she said, "Walk, not bloody likely," which apparently was shocking to audiences in
Oh,
1950.
because bloody.
Yeah. And the actress was considered to have taken a risk to her entire career for saying bloody.
Wow.
Now,
How do you do?
How do you do?
I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night. I could have danced, danced, danced.
Envelope. The best picture of the year is My Fair Lady, Jack L. Warner.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 2 of the Chicago Cinephiles. I am your co-host Daniel. Alongside me, we have my co-host Steven and my co-host James. How we doing today?
we're great.
Yep.
We're co-hosting it.
Awesome. For those of you guys don't know, we released our first episode earlier today, Casablanca. So please be sure to go and watch that. Give us a like, comment, let us know what your thoughts are. And if you're feeling so inclined, please do subscribe. We really do appreciate that. As you saw at the end of last week, we chose our next topic, and the next one is going to be My Fair Lady. So
we didn't choose it. The wheel chose.
So we are going to have that conversation now. Before we get started, is there any last comments or thoughts that we had about Casablanca before we move on and kind of close that chapter?
Best movie ever. Most beautiful woman who's ever been filmed.
Not true.
Well, you say Grace Kelly. I mean, when she's listening to the song, look, I mean, just most beautiful woman who's ever been filmed. It would take a lot of like Vaseline on that lens to make me look that good.
Who are we gonna trust?
Well.
I'm just playing. But anyway, all right. So on to our new episode today. We were doing from the 1965 Oscars. The winner was My Fair Lady. So just a little bit of a facts about that. We're going to do the same flows we did before, facts, and kind of go in order. So just want to give you some quick facts on it. It was released on December 25th, 1964. So it was a Christmas special. Jack Warner was the producer. Some of the stars in the show were obviously Audrey Hepburn, Rex Harrison, Stanley Holloway, and I do want to give credit to Marnie Nixon for lip syncing a lot of Audrey Hepburn's parts. She was kind of the one, obviously, behind the curtain, so I want to give her credit as well. Did you guys know that this budget was $17 million at the time? It was the most expensive film of all time.
I mean, come on, yeah.
He also paid an outlandish amount for the rights to make the movie as well.
That's just crazy.
I mean,
Something
crazy.
ridiculous.
I think that made Rex Harrison mad that he wasn't paid enough for the movie, probably.
And Steven was telling me yesterday that basically the costume designer had no budget, so that just kind of tells you
The production designer had no budget.
Production, sorry.
Like, spend what you want to make. It could have gone to London and just filmed it.
Kids filmed it in London.
Let's film London here. That'll be cheaper. Yeah.
So just like last week, this was nominated for a lot of Oscars. It was actually nominated more Oscars than Casablanca, which blows my mind. It was nominated for 12 Oscars. 12. And it did win Best Actor for Rex Harrison, which I probably would agree with that. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography and Color, Best Art Direction and Set, Best Costume, and Best Sound. It was originally adapted from a 1956 play by Lerner and Lowe, based on a 1913 George, I think it's Cukor play or Cukor play.
No, Cukor was the director.
Pygmalion or whatever.
Yeah. It's Pygmalion. Yeah. It's yeah. Go
And
ahead.
then in 2018, it was selected by preservation by the U.S. National Film Registry by Library of Congress as significant to our culture, and therefore it should be preserved. So, not sure. I know we may have some opinions on that. AFI, which we'll get into later, also had some pretty interesting rankings on it. So, I do want to start off I want to read a quote really quick from Robert
Oh,
Ebert, and
cool.
then we can get started. So Robert Ebert quoted this on his website. He said, "My Fair Lady is the best and most unlikely of musicals, during which I cannot decide if I am happier when the characters are talking or when they are singing. The songs are literate and beloved, some romantic, some comic, some nonsense, some surprisingly philosophical. Every single one wonderful." So those are
Wow.
some big words coming from Roger Ebert. That was actually on his, like I said, on his website.
How big was the
But
check they gave him to write that?
Right, yeah, for real. Like, how desperate was he for money? Um, but anyway, so enough about that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over. For those of you that haven't seen the movie, we're going to have Steven hop in and give just a quick overview and a summary of it. Obviously, not give any spoilers away, but just kind of give you a basis of what the show or what the movie looks like. So, Steven, why don't you take that away for me?
This is going to be a very in-depth synopsis. But from his position at the top of 1912 Edwardian London's rigid class system, pompous phonetics professor Henry Higgins is so confident of his brilliance in linguistics, he brags to fellow phoneticist Colonel Hugh Pickering that in 6 months he can convince the city's well-bred elite that Eliza Doolittle, a vulgar Cockney flower girl of the lowest class, is a cultured, sophisticated lady of high society, simply by teaching her to speak proper English. Eliza agrees, hoping that speaking proper English will allow her to sell flowers in a proper flower shop instead of on the street corner. But with Higgins's brilliant mind comes an overly self-important, bloated ego, which causes his dispassionate attitude towards others, as if they're inconsequential and therefore bothersome, especially women. And with Eliza's spirit and resilience comes threadbare nerves and an easy to spark rage and sorrow caused by her usually absent father, who will do anything to continue to do nothing. Something like my life, including begging for money from anyone, including his daughter. These class differences and clashing personalities provide the framework for a musical that is much more complex than Carefree, filled with songs that became beloved classics like Get Me to the Church on Time, I've Grown Accustomed to Her Face, and I Could Have Danced All Night. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you for that,
That's
Steven.
the Cliff Notes, or the Raider Notes.
We appreciate that. Yes, we look forward to the rare notes every week. If you guys agree, please leave a comment because his writing is superb, and I could never do anything like this. Mine would have literally been like, "Poor girl tries to become rich."
I'm Venmoing you as we speak. Here we go. There you go, guys.
James, do you want to say anything with in regards to Steven's beautiful summary there?
I mean, we all love Steven's prose. I think it sums it up pretty well. I have strong feelings on this movie
Yeah, you and I
that,
both, buddy.
that we could get into. I don't know if it's just my
Yeah,
modern interpretation of
yeah,
it.
we'll definitely get there. So let's start then. So for trivia this week, I have I only have one that I want to go over. I think Steven and James may have a few, but
Oh, I'm sure we do.
the one I wanted to mention was that Cary Grant was originally cast in this, or was supposed to be cast in this, and basically he told whoever that he refused to do it. He wouldn't do it, and he refused to watch it unless Rex Harrison got the part. Now, there is a little bit of questioning if this really happened or if this was a myth, because this same story was been told before by a different movie that Cary Grant had done. I think Steven probably can tell you more about that, but so we're not sure if that is real or not. But I thought it was kind of a neat little, little interesting fact there, that Cary Grant, who I think is a great actor. I don't know if I could see him in this role. It's just kind of I don't know, it just seems like an odd role because to me, Cary Grant's more of like, not a tough guy, but just more like a ladies' man. And this guy definitely is not a ladies' man, which we'll get into.
Which he's much more friendly, and you almost want to be his friend or his something. He's
Yeah,
bored.
it would be a really like good acting job on his part to hate him.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's start. Stephen, tell me some interesting facts or some trivia about the
Well,
if you have any.
well, there are just a few things that I don't know. Um, there were a lot of little things. Like there's so much class in this movie. But I tried to go backwards from, like, this is a movie of the musical that was made of the play by George Bernard Shaw, which after the play was made, I think in 1938, a film version was made of the play with Leslie Howard as Henry Higgins. So a lot of things that are ended up in the musical, either on stage or in the film, were things that sort of were put in after George Bernard Shaw wrote the play.
Okay.
So, but one of the things that, when she's at the horse race or whatever, and she says, "Move your blood, Renard," or whatever. In the play, um, she is doing the new small talk, and Freddie is sort of enraptured by her because he's Freddie and he's a little dull. And when she's leaving, he asked her if she's going to walk across the park, and she said, "Walk, not bloody likely," which apparently was shocking to audiences in
Oh,
1950.
because bloody.
Yeah. And the actress was considered to have taken a risk to her entire career for saying bloody.
Wow.
Now we have, WAP. But anyway, um, but in the 1938 film with Leslie Howard, that was the first edition of "The Rain in Spain Stays Mainly in the Plains," and in Artford, Opshire, and Hampshire, what are the hurricanes thing? Those two lines were not in the original play, which I just find interesting. How do these things come about? Plus, the ending of the original play is extremely different than either the movie or the stage musical or the film musical, because she actually leaves, and he thinks she's going to come back, but she never walks in at the very end.
Oh, good for her.
But but George Bernard Shaw found out that even when the play was being produced, people were sort of having her come back to him because audiences wanted this romantic ending, whatever. And he hated it so much that he wrote sort of a treatise in further publications of the play to say no. There's no reason that she would go back to him. He says that the rest of the story need not be shown in action, and indeed would hardly need telling if our imaginations were not so enfeebled, in the need of romance that keeps its stock of happy endings to misfit all stories. Nevertheless, people in all directions have assumed for no other reason that she became the hero of a romance and that she must be married to the hero of it. And he just hated that. Even the most recent revival of this by Bartlett Sher, I have a lot of opinions about him, at I believe it was the Kennedy Center, I think. He had the same ending as the musical, the same ending as the movie, but when he asked for his slippers, she stares at the audience and then walked out, as if that was going to be the ending. So totally changing. So there's so many different
interpretations.
But all of them are still confusing.
Yeah.
I think. Would you think so, James? I mean, it's sort of what?
I would have liked the ending where she didn't come back. Like when she came back, like and no consequences.
Exactly. It's just so bizarre,
It's it. The ending, I was not happy. That was it was. I feel like they did not do a great job with that ending. Like there could have gone better ways.
I think it's a great story, but how do you wrap up the story? I think that was the issue. Like, I'm not sure. I think it was a play about class and class distinctions, and for George Bernard Shaw, but if everybody else, it became a love story. I mean, people, even the reviews I was reading and the synopses were like, "Oh, this love story. Where did you see a love story?" He was
seemed like him messing with this poor woman, like
and not even knowing he was messing with her. Really, just not really considering her at all.
Oh, there was a love story, all right.
Pickering and
it was Pickering and Higgins. That was a love story. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge. James, did you have any trivia or to add that? Or
sorry.
Go ahead, James. That's about all.
My favorite is that Jack Warner, who was the producer of the film, refused to let Julie Andrews reprise the role of Eliza. Like,
Mhm.
and then she decided to make this small little film instead called Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Like, just a film that probably went nowhere in compared to this movie.
With
But
Walt, some Walt, I don't know. I've
yeah,
never heard.
yeah, I think it was. I think it
And
has a
she
Crazy
won best
D.
and she won best actress.
Yeah, she did win Best Actress,
And
and
Audrey
to
didn't even
me,
get
it's like
nominated.
she, he refused to let her have this role, even though she crushed it on the stage. But
And did you read when Julie won? She thanked Jack L. Warner in her acceptance speech for
that
not.
is so great.
That's
I wish I could
shady.
put some truth serum and because did he ever really say why he didn't want her? Did he just not want
He
to be
didn't think
tied
she
to
was
one
a name.
person?
I'm not sure if she had done a movie or any movies at the
Okay,
point.
yeah,
She
because I
was
thought she really
right
wasn't
after
that.
doing that.
Yeah,
Mary
So
Poppins was the breakout role for her,
no,
and
and
then
so that
she
makes
did a lot of
sense.
stage work beforehand.
That makes
oh yeah,
sense. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean,
and
obviously
Walt
she done
Disney
the.
even held that production for almost a year because she was pregnant, and she said, "Well, I can't do the role." And he goes, "We'll wait." So they held the production so Julie Andrews could play in that role for Mary Poppins.
A fun
Like,
a fun fact: The Bodyguard. They did the same thing. Kevin Costner waited almost a year for Whitney Houston because she was pregnant too. So it's kind of a little fun fact.
oh, look at there.
Um, okay, so I want to go into the next question, and maybe it's probably a question more for me and James because we had not. Maybe it's even a question more for me because I had no idea what I was getting into when when I I've heard the saying "My Fair Lady," but I think it's from to me I thought it come from
A nursery rhyme.
a nursery rhyme, and so I didn't really know so I'd heard that term, so I had no idea what to expect going into it. So my expectations were honestly were pretty low, just because 3 hour musicals usually aren't my thing. I don't mind musicals, but usually 3 hour musicals are not it. And so that was my initial thoughts going into it. I was like, this so I kind of paced myself and only watched a half at a time, thinking I was gonna be miserable, which spoiler, I really wasn't. Which we'll get into later. But that was I really didn't have much thoughts going into it. James, did you have any overarching thoughts or themes going into it?
Um, so I've seen clips of it and pop culture. The pop culture that I can remind is I've grown accustomed to your face, aka Sideshow Bob, when he tries to kill Bart and he can't do it because he's grown accustomed to his face. Um, so you can see cultural references that way, but I've only seen clips of it, and it wasn't. It's not the '60s musicals are not really my thing.
Yeah,
Well,
I
we
agree.
got plenty more to go through.
Ah, no.
So before we get into our opinions on it, I did want to let everybody know that AFI in 1998 came out with their initial top 100 list. They did a second one in 2006, I believe, or maybe a little bit later, maybe 2008. But in '98, they came out and they actually had this movie ranked as the 91st movie of all time. Now, there's a list of criteria I'm not going to go into, but just want to give you guys a heads up. I think when they did the re-release, it didn't make it. And then also more kind of importantly is in 2006 they did an AFI top musical and they identified it as the eighth best musical of all time. No, these are movies. Eighth best musical of all time. Ironically, Mary Poppins was number six. So
Julie was like,
I just find that so ironic. So with that being said, let's kind of dive into a little bit more. Let's do a little bit of the positive first. Stephen, I want to start with you. Tell me what was your favorite song of the movie?
I've heard on the street where I've heard all those songs. I've heard, I could have danced all night, which I thought was a weird. Firstly, as a musical theater person, I didn't really know how it fit into the scene, and just because she, had a good night with him, he didn't even really compliment her. She's singing the song. I was like, really? This song came okay, and poor Freddie in the street where you live is like stalker number two over here, he really doesn't have much of a function. So I thought those were really great standards now that I thought were right. But my favorite song was with a little bit of luck. I just loved it.
Mm.
Probably because I'm at the age now where the only role I can play is the father. But but I really, he just was.
But you're not
It was
homeless, so you can't play it.
yet. Don't take me on the running. So I really liked that song, probably because I hadn't heard it and heard it and heard it and
Yeah,
had
it's like kind of
thought
fresh
distance.
for you.
It's a great,
Um,
wonderful, up tempo, that. So yeah, what was your all's favorite song?
Yeah, I'll go that way. James, you can finish it off. Mine, I have two. I'm not really sure. The first one is that the with a little bit. I think it's probably the same song you're talking about. The
Love that.
with a little bit, with a little bit. And then honestly, I caught myself the other night singing "Wouldn't It Be Loverly," and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, and so I don't like. They were just to me they were just like pretty fun songs like overall like I generally gravitate towards more of like the love song type stuff, but I didn't really feel there was that type of song in this one. So I'm kind of cheating and going to give two, but mine would be with a little bit and wouldn't it be loverly. James, what about you?
Give me to church on time.
Yeah, that was a
It
good
was a
one
big
too.
11 o'clock
I
number,
was just,
wasn't it?
even though the voice didn't quite sync up with him moving his mouth, it was still, it was still a fun song. Like, despite being problematic today, but it was a
Yeah,
great little song, and it kind of just livened a lot of it up. It was like one of the more peppy songs.
He
agreed.
has like two great songs, and this is like not like not a top tier character in the piece, but he's got these great songs.
Yeah.
So interesting, and I've heard that I could have danced on it 1,000 times, a million times, but this was the first time watching this movie. I was like, so there are no lyric changes. She just sings the whole verse and chorus 3 times, exactly the same, 3 times.
Mm,
I was like, I mean, maybe that's just me being a little Sondheim freak, but like, really? That
yeah.
okay? It's just, but then again, simpler times for simpler people when I was, in my 70s, in the 1960s.
So yeah, just so you guys know, James or Steven's 112. Now
Count the rings.
this is a little bit tougher question, but culturally slash technologically impact do you think it had on society? I'll kind of start, and this is honestly not my thought, but this was someone else's. So I just want to acknowledge it. I was listening to another podcast about it, and they talked about that. Stephen, you sort of mentioned it. There is a little bit of problem, or maybe it was James. There was a little bit of problematic undertones in some of the way that the songs were. I think nowadays which for those of you guys don't know, I'm not the biggest like that's problematic and like we shouldn't sing like certain
It's
songs like
inappropriate. It's
it's a
inappropriate.
it's a different time period, but I guess like you could say those were obviously some of those like he sold his daughter basically. But I will say for me the only thing like the fact that I'd never heard of it speaks volumes to me. And like I consider myself pretty like knowledgeable when it comes to films. Like not like I'm a know everything, but I'm not your average 30-year-old, 30 something year old. Like I understand, like I tend to know a little bit more about movies and I'd never heard of this. So for me, I don't think it had any impact. I'm sure it did, other than we all now love Julie Andrews. But James, what about you? Did you have any thoughts for cultural or technological impact it may have had?
So like if you look at the lighting, they did some really cool things with the lighting where how they light it, like in the high society, it was very bright. It was done that way. So, and then the low lighting, it was like the outside, it was kind of like the
Ooh,
gringy
good point.
areas.
Mhm.
So like it has done like this, and then they did a lot of I don't know how you would do this low tech, but like they shot the scene. So like one of the opening songs where they're like sitting out in the like coming out of the door, and then people move, they freeze, and then it
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
moves.
yeah,
That's all done. Like if you look at it, that's like a continuous shot. So like the film editing and some of the film like how they did the filming, like it's kind of neat to see. Um like the choices that they've made, and like obviously, the race horse scene where they have those great outfits, which was a nod to the stage
true.
production. So like other like the references, like The Simpsons. Obviously, The Simpsons did it. Like what movie hasn't Simpsons used? But like
Right.
I've heard of it, but Also, I'm not a big fan of that 60s and 70s movies. So
Steven, bring us home. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, there's just if you just search My Fair Lady references, you'll have a billion hits. I mean, there's a Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane has said that Stewie on Family Guy is just he's doing the voice of Rex Harrison as Professor Higgins.
That's so cool.
That's Stewie.
that
So
makes
Paul
more
Lynde is
sense.
basically Roger the alien. Paul Lynde is Roger the alien, and
Yep.
Stewie is, Rex Harrison. That makes sense. Two really homosexual people. But you have like I was just telling Daniel yesterday. There's a Batman from the '60s episode where apparently the King Tut is the villain, and somebody says the sleet in Crete is never very neat, and King Tut says, "I think you got it." There's an episode of Sanford and Son called My Fair Esther. I mean, my favorite is there's a sketch from '70s to SNL where Christopher Lee tries to is Henry Higgins to Baba Wawa, which was Barbara Walters. I think that's hilarious.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I would look that up. That sounds fantastic.
And there's even an episode of Family Guy where Stewie sings "I've grown accustomed to her face." I mean, how meta can you get? And how much the movie has been either copied or just flat out, rebooted. Rhinestone, the Dolly Parton movie, She's All That, Trading Places, Pretty Women, like it's all variations on a thing, which is which I kind of like, but it's everywhere. You can't really. I was telling Daniel I was listening to a song from the '80s, my heyday, by Midnight Star, and in the middle of it the other day, I was listening to it, and she said, "By Jove, I think I've got it." And I was like, "Oh my God, yet another reference to this crazy movie." So it's very long. Maybe that's why people may have gotten stuck in the movie when it first premiered or something, and they couldn't leave, so it stuck in their brains. But it's very culturally relevant.
Well, I think it had an intermission, so people could have left then.
It's true.
And I feel like 2 out of 3 of us would have, which we'll get into. So I want to move on to least favorite character in the movie. Steven, start us off. Who's your least favorite character in the movie?
I was going to say the father, but I'm going to probably be cast in that some year. So I'm going to say that. So if I'm lucky, and maybe I'm too old for the father, but I think it's just Freddie. I mean, he's had a great song, but what is his function in this other than to be, this sort of nice guy who she will go to after everything sort of falls apart with Higgins. I don't know, it just seemed like a very odd character and a very not fleshed out character.
Do you think he's maybe like the pot stirrer, like he's there to mess up the status quo?
But maybe
because with him in the picture, like she can't fall in love with Higgins if you fall down that belief that that's the whole point of the so like maybe he's there to be, what's the word I'm looking for, like the not the hero, not like the hero, the villain, I can't remember what it's called, like anyway, it's like the anti something or whatever, where it's like the person who's trying to be, so maybe that's what it is.
Might be, but I just found it sort of the father is so richly portrayed. I mean, even the Hungarian phoneticist is very richly portrayed and written. But something about Freddie, it's just a big old, I'm a tenor, I'm going to sing this great song kind of role in a musical. I sound really pretty when I sing this song, that kind of thing.
And then get teased by Audrey Hepburn.
Okay.
James, what about you?
Least favorite character? This is gonna be a hot take. I hated Professor Henry Higgins.
There you go.
He was too cartoonishly evil, and too cartoonishly terrible. He was just over the top. I don't know. I could not stand him. He was my least favorite part of that whole movie, which I know is the point of him, to be this arrogant, terrible person. But there's some actor, when you perform a role, you just I hate this person.
And probably because that's who he is. Because there's a story that when they had the sits probe for the orchestra to come in when they were starting to put it up on Broadway after they were starting to do previews, He hated that the orchestra played different notes that he had been used to when he just had the rehearsal pianist, and screamed at them, "Stop all that! I don't want these people here." Like just a crazy person. So I don't think it was much of a stretch to play Henry Higgins.
Okay, so I'm justified in my hatred. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. For me, it's Higgins. I want to say the dad, but the dad's not ended enough, and I don't want to say like obviously anybody can be rude. I'm not saying that, but like I don't think like he wasn't raised on like high society, so like he doesn't have all the proper mannerisms and stuff. Whereas like I definitely feel like Higgins, this was definitely just like it was just a bet. I mean, obviously exactly what it was, but I agree with you, James. I think that
Oh,
Higgins is the worst one.
I think this sums up Higgins great. He is just a mean person to everyone because the quote in the movie towards the end is the question is not whether I treat you rudely, but whether you've ever heard me treat anyone else better. Like,
He had a
if that
point when
does
he
not
said
sum
that.
up, like, I'm a jerk to everyone, you're
I
not
mean,
special.
I had a boyfriend say that to me once. Like, I was like, I really would like it if you say you're going to call, that you call, and I don't wait a week to hear from you. Oh, I do that with everybody. I don't care about everybody. I
Right?
care about
I'm not
me.
dating you.
So I really prefer that you. Well, I do that all the time. Well, that doesn't make you right. It just makes you stupid and mean.
Or it makes you Higgins.
Or
You should
Higgins.
you should have just changed
Henry
it.
Higgins.
You should have changed his number to Henry Higgins.
On my
Okay,
phone. Hold on, let me
so what did we think about the ending? I think we've already kind of so maybe we don't all talk about it, but I think we've all kind of agreed with I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. Does everybody kind of agree with that?
I mean, yeah.
It should have ended when she told him off at his mother's
It
house.
was perfect ending.
That would have been perfect, but no, they had to have them come back,
Or
and no
throw the
one learned a
slippers at
thing.
him. Or throw the slippers at him. You know what I mean? Like it would have been perfect.
Or tear up the house. I don't know. Something like that.
Burn it
Take the
down.
ceiling. I mean,
No, I
something.
agree. I 100% agree. I think we all can agree on that. But I kind of want to rush that because I did want to get into the next topic is did it deserve to win the Oscar?
No,
So
just no.
do do you
You really
want
need an opinion, James. You need an opinion.
do you
I
want me
think
to go first? Because I think I'm the
yeah,
opposite of you guys, or do y'all want to go first?
oh,
And
it's
then
fine.
You could go
It's fine.
first,
You can
Daniel.
go first because we'll hate.
Me and Steven will
We've got a lot of
complain
hate
about it.
coming your way.
okay,
So go ahead.
I want to preface this. It did not deserve to win the Oscar. I will fully support that. In my opinion, Doctor Strangelove is better, although it is a very weird movie, obviously, and comedy doesn't win very often because what someone finds funny, the other person doesn't. And if you wanted to go with a musical, you had Mary Poppins right in front of you, like it was there for the taking. So, like, if you just wanted to have,
Unsinkable Molly Brown too was up there. I
if you
mean, you
just
could
wanted to
have.
have, well, that, but that wasn't, and
Wasn't nominated, but
it wasn't nominated. So, but I'm just saying you had the option to, and so, okay, so I actually enjoyed the movie, and I know that's going to be a shocker because neither one of y'all did, but surprisingly, I did not hate the movie. And I can't help but wonder. I told Steven this the other day. I can't help but wonder: is it partially because I just think Audrey Hepburn is insanely gorgeous, and so like seeing her walk down the stairs just made me
Mhm.
forget about the past 2.5 hours of meh. Like seeing her walk down the
Oh,
stairs and just being like insanely gorgeous, or even like her being, whatever the word is, like roughed up to May look like she's, basically like a bum, and still you could tell that she was beautiful underneath all that. And so maybe that's part of the reason why. But I didn't hate it. I'm not gonna tell you like I loved it, obviously, but I didn't. I don't think I didn't. I don't think I disliked as much as you guys did. So I'm curious to kind of hear y'all's thoughts on it overall. But for me, it's a movie that will I ever watch again? No, but I didn't hate it. If that makes sense.
great review. I'll never watch it again, but I didn't hate it. From the New York Times,
I mean, but there's a lot of movies like that. I'll never watch Schindler's List again because it's too
Dude,
hard to
Where's My
watch.
Car? I mean, you love that movie, I'm sure.
But I mean, well, let me rephrase it. I will watch Schindler's List because it's on this list again. But my point is, there's some movies you watch one time and you never watch it again because A, you have no
Oh
interest
yeah.
in, B, or it's too difficult to watch. And this could
Amen.
be both. This could fall under both for you guys. But anyway, I'll stop blabbering. That's enough for me. I'll
Go
let
ahead,
y'all.
hit it, James.
I'll
And you've got a lot
yeah,
coming
because
at us.
James has got a lot of, and I want to hear his points. So let's take it away,
Okay.
James.
So the whole premise of this movie is that people of the UK and that time period didn't code switch. Like, so code switching,
Yeah,
you
explain
talk,
code
you,
switch to people because they don't know what it is.
so code switching term that is used. So we all instinctively do it. How you talk to your friends is one way. How you talk to your coworkers is another. How you talk in a job interview is another. So you are more prim and proper. Like you change your language. This whole movie is on the premise that the people that have the Cockney accent cannot code switch to save their lives. That is the whole premise, except with incredible education. And if you look at the people that came out that had the Cockney accent, like there's like 9 million people that are just like Adele. Like
Mm.
she
Who
is
still
from that
got it,
area.
and she's
Yeah,
fabulous. You know.
yeah. There's so many of these fabulous people. So the whole premise of the movie is that they don't know how to code switch, which I don't think is true. Like, I think
Or do
it's the
we not
premise
even
of the
care? Yeah.
movie is insulting, and I don't
Oh,
know if it's because I'm looking at it from my 2025 point of view, but from the 1960s, I definitely think that way. But the other problems that I have it is the cartoonishly over the top evilness of these people. Like the stakes. Okay, you need to go and fool the king or the royalty. Otherwise, you're going to die. Like, what kind of stakes are that? Like,
I don't think
somebody got
go
that.
to
cancer.
like a formal ball. Like,
I feel like that was just like a. I don't think that was real. I think that was just like a.
I know, I don't know. It just added to it. Like
No, I get you. Yeah, it's like
the first hour irritated me. Then I fell asleep watching it,
Well,
and
that's a good
then
sign.
started to watch it again. And then I was like, the second half just infuriated me, and the ending just put me into a rage. Like that
Fine.
movie, like especially when you had Mary Poppins, Doctor Strangelove, I think are way superior films.
We got
Just
dancing penguins in Mary Poppins, for God's sake. What do they have
yeah.
in this?
Also, I think the cast in Mary Poppins was better, but Doctor Strangelove, phenomenal film. Like that is a cult classic.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I could go on and rant,
Dick
but
Van
I don't
Dyke
want the
as
podcast to
Henry
be 2 hours.
Higgins. That's
So
what I want to say. Dick Van Dyke as Henry Higgins. That would have been a very different movie.
Can he pull it off? Dick Van Dyke's too nice.
That's exactly my point. And his hello, governor, that kind of stuff would have been hilarious.
No,
But
I'm actually. This is why I wanted to do these because I love that
hello.
James is very passionate about this. This is why we do these because this is fun. It's fun to sit here and listen to these, and for those of you who don't know, Stephen has a background in theater, and so he kind of comes at it more of a, he's definitely more of a pro than me and James are when it comes to the theater world, and so I'm curious to hear Stephen's thoughts as well, especially since it was a play at first. Tell me your thoughts, Stephen. Overall, did you what's your take on the movie?
I'm probably what you call jaded with theater and with musicals right now. Not probably, I am. Because, I mean, so much of it I look at and watch and see and go, ugh. And that's when you're too close to something that sometimes happens or all the time happens. But for this, I wanted to go cut to the chase. It's we don't need to see this. We don't need to hear this rhapsody. We don't need to have all of it was so much extra stuff that could have been, you could have cut this sucker down to like 2 hours or 2 10
Yeah, no, I agree.
There was, you said, okay, we're gonna want, okay, and we're just like, okay, go through, go, come on, next, there was a lot of that for me. Plus, even Wicked, had they just did the first act, and it was what, two something for the first act of Wicked, the first movie, and they took except for one transitional song, they did every song from the stage musical in the film.
Wow.
I mean,
and that's unheard of, right, Stephen? Like, isn't that pretty unheard of? In like
most of the time, yeah. I mean, there's, first we both Daniel and I just watched Chicago, the movie musical Chicago, and several songs from that were cut just to sort of make sense of how that was being filmed, but also because, come on, speed it up, Otto. Come on, let's go. So there was just a lot of that for me, and like I said, I knew a lot of these songs, many of these songs, but I didn't know how how they fit into scenes. And sometimes I just went, whoa, that's really odd. I should have danced
Especially
like
like
that.
the dancing one, yeah.
You know,
Um,
another song in a musical about dancing where no one's dancing. I could,
I do also think that's kind of crazy that when you look back, we spent 3 hours and all we learned is that she can learn to talk. Like when you really put it in perspective, like this movie literally was about nothing. I mean, I hate to say that because it was obviously stuff, but like, like if you look at like a 3 hour movie like Ben Hur or like Lawrence of Arabia, they led a revolution. They did something. She learned to say her
Mhm.
H's. So it's like when you put it
She
Well,
in
learned to
I will
say her
say,
H's in posh English is how she learned to say
exactly.
it.
how
So it's
kind of you to have, that kind of thing. But I mean, I think the play and what this should really be about is about the class distinction because so many lines like jumped out at me when she after she sort of fooled everybody, he goes, well, you can get yourself married off to some suitable man. And Eliza says, we were above all of that at Covent Garden. I sold flowers. I
mm,
didn't sell myself.
wow.
Now you've made a lady of me, and I'm not fit to sell anything else. And near the very end, Pickering says, "What about the girl? You act as if she doesn't matter." And Higgins says, "Of course she matters. What do you think I've been doing all these months? What could possibly matter more than to take a human being and change her into a different human being by creating a new speech for her? It's filling up the deepest gap that separates class from class and soul from soul. Oh, she matters immensely." Now, why this horrific person who's been treating her like dirt, you know, has this revelation or admits this is beyond me. I didn't see a lot of that in this
Right.
performance. But I mean, that little speech just jumped out at me because that's really, I think that's what George Bernard Shaw was trying to sort of put to the forefront, in this. But again, how do you end the damn thing?
I agree that the class is very prevalent in the UK. That is way more prevalent than it is here in the United States. But
But
it's a movie that, by the way, also Wicked, it was only 9 minutes shorter than My Fair Lady. Just FYI. Um,
Yeah, it was long too. Yeah.
um,
but this had a person who wrote good songs. Oh, what Stephen? No.
well, we'll disagree on that, but um, the whole premise of it is like he did not change. Characters change. Like in order to have a good resolve
Arc.
in the story, feeling satisfied, a character's grow. The person that grew was Miss Eliza. The person that
Mhm.
didn't grow was Higgins.
Hmm.
He basically ended the movie the same as he was. He was not upset that she was gone, but somebody not to relay messages for her. Like, my whole day is shot because she didn't let the person know that the servant to I wanted coffee instead of tea. Like,
Hmm.
he learned nothing. There was no personal growth in that character, and maybe that's why I hate him so much.
I,
But
I, I would say he did grow a little bit, but you don't want to spend the rest of your life with someone who goes, I don't love her, but I've grown accustomed to her face. I
Yeah.
don't want to learn another face. Let's just
and
keep
it,
with the face I know.
There's a lot of marriages that are out there like that right now.
Well, I didn't recognize you. You're so wrinkly faced. How are you, Lord?
No, I agree. I think we all can agree that they missed the ball on this one. Like, I don't think it was egregious as like some of the other winners. Because like because I can see why someone liked it and why they picked it. Just for reference, you guys I always do the IMDb score. Doctor Strangelove was the highest ranked on IMDb. It got an 8.3. The other movies were Mary Poppins 7.8, My Fair Lady a 7.7, Beckett a 7.7, and then Zorba the Greek a 7.6. So they were all kind of close together, and then Strangelove was sort of by itself. So I think we all probably looking back can agree that
Mhm.
Strangelove probably should have won if we're just being, objectively, it should
But
have
the
won.
Academy just rarely, if ever, recognizes
Gets it
content.
right.
Rarely, if ever. And it's so much more difficult to
Well, it's because
pull off.
comedy is subjective.
Uh,
What you
I think
find funny, James doesn't. What I find funny, Steven doesn't. That's just, it's hard to,
I think
whereas
if I
like you can
farted
find
right
it,
now, we'd all
like
laugh.
Casablanca is a movie that we all can agree on because it all tugs at every single one of our like emotions that we have. And
Yeah,
so
I
like,
sense your
so
point.
And personal growth.
yeah, personal growth exactly. So it's just easier.
But so we all cry at the same thing. I mean, I see what you're saying, but
Well, no,
it,
but yeah, but like a movie, there's not gonna be a movie that's only sad. There's gonna be whereas like a comedy movie, it's hard to win because a lot of times people view comedy as like a layup, like oh that's just easy. It's not very thought provoking to make somebody laugh, and obviously that's not true. But a lot of critics, I think that way.
like John Goodman in A Big Lebowski, he should have been at least
Hmm.
nominated. Like
Yeah,
that's a brilliant performance, whether it's
Yeah.
comedic or dramatic. But
yeah.
they just sort of like ignore all of that for some reason and then go for whatever.
Or our fellow Chicagoan John Candy, or maybe he's not Chicago. He's from Canada, but he died here. Well, we
I
count
just
him.
watched. I'd watched the scene from what is it? The Mirror Has Two Faces, that Barbra Streisand movie where Lauren Bacall was brilliant in it, and who won Juliette Binoche for whatever she was in that year, stuff like that. But these are great performances that I think they go, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's me, but when Dolly Parton doesn't win for best song for 9 to 5, there's a problem. By gosh, that's what I say.
So I think we all can agree that this one. Okay, I guess I'll ask next then. Like we had, we ranked Casablanca. Where would you guys rank? Where would you? And maybe we even can do musicals if you want to. As far as musical movies is concerned, would you guys even put this anywhere remotely near your favorite?
Not
Maybe
even in just we narrow it to musicals. I guess if we narrowed it to musicals in the 1960, like we're nominated in
that were
1965.
about Edwardian England
It would
and
still be
about
third.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's one of those things like where I will admit the songs are catchy, but it's something like I would just listen to the soundtrack and not watch the movie.
that's true. And you said it correctly. When it's a movie, it's a soundtrack. When it's a stage performance, it's a cast recording.
Really? Okay.
Homosexuals get very upset about this.
Good to know. Alrighty, y'all. Any last comments before we move on to next week's episode?
Oh my God, James and I are like, please, please be nice to us, Wheel. Please, please, dear
Yes.
God.
All right.
Don't
Well,
hurt us. Don't hurt us. Oh, God, what we're gonna
without
get.
further ado, let me see. Let me share my screen so we can see the wheel.
I'm so scared now.
Good movie. Good
Hold me,
movie.
hold me, hold me, hold me. Good, but no whammies. And
All right, can y'all see my screen?
I see a black screen.
I said,
There it
now,
is. All right.
spin.
All right, here we go. I'm nervous.
If it's Hurt Locker, I'm gonna kill myself. What is that?
Coda is our next movie.
Coda from
Coda.
2021. Oh wow.
Yep.
Okay.
I have wanted to see this. James, you've probably seen this. I have not seen this.
I have seen it. I have thoughts. We can share that for next.
Is this
Yeah.
Coda by Hoda Copy? Is that what it is? Coda by Hoda Copy?
No, it's Stephen Coda stands for child of deaf parents. So that should be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to that because I kind of wanted to watch that before, so that'll be good. So we really it's kind of cool to kind of jump into the 21st century, sort of change it up a little bit.
I just want to say I love James did our little backgrounds for this.
Oh yeah, let's give a shout out to
They
James.
look great. I mean, just wonderful.
Photoshop is amazing.
He really puts in the time, so we appreciate that.
I want you to Photoshop my video from now on. If you'll just make me, I'm gonna look like Brenda Vaccaro. So if you'll make that happen.
It feels like we each have our own little part, and that's awesome. And I appreciate everybody being here today. And I think that pretty much wraps up the second episode, y'all. Just reminder,
Dun, dun.
please give us a like, comment, share, subscribe. We also have a TikTok as well. The Chicago Cinephiles are on TikTok. Please, if you guys want to send a suggestion, we'll happily take that as well. Put it in the comments, and we can, we'll see about maybe bumping your suggestion up higher than normal. But please let us know, and we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. But without further ado, hope you guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.